Hello and welcome. Hello everyone, I hope you're all safe and well. Welcome to today's webinar. So we're going to be looking at some research that's been done using the sprint research approach that we've taken for the test community network. I'll kind of unpack that a little bit more detail, but we're going to be looking at the impacts of using AI for authoring items based on the kind of findings of this kind of research sprint, and looking at the guide and some really quite exciting stuff to go with it. So I've got a little kind of demo-y stuff, I've got slides I'm going to talk you through, etc. Let me put on the comments. So please do say hello. I'd be interested to know why have you come? Why are you here? What's your kind of reasoning and kind of motive for this? Are you just intrigued? What's Tim up to? Tim's been doing stuff again. Or have you got this as a kind of an immediate need? Are you looking to use AI to author items? Are you already doing it? Tell me your kind of your theory. So please do communicate with me today. I want this to be as much about what I'm doing and what I'm sharing here as much as what you're doing as well. So and I kind of want to try and include in this kind of ask me anything section as well, so you can kind of ask me anything about the research and my thoughts on this. If you don't know me, then my name's Burnett. Hello, AI authoring fans. So I'm doing a lot of kind of work in the kind of AI automation side of things. I've, as well as the test community network, I've set up a little kind of local thing, kind of Air Valley AI. So that's where I'm based here, just to kind of help organizations. And I wrote the playbook for the AO organizations. There's a new version that's coming out as soon as again, but I am the founder of the test community network, and welcome to my little world. Just some updates for you coming up. So I do a weekly update. So I'm obviously not doing an interview this week, so I'm doing the webinar, but we've got Mary coming up soon. Fantastic conversation with her. She's a former of kind of ETS and all her experience. We talk about, she helps really kind of unpack some of the important things about validity, reliability, and fairness of examinations, and kind of looking with a bit of an eye on AI's position as well. And then we've got Rebecca and Lena. Rebecca's from the OECD, and they've brought out a report that Lena was involved in, looking at the upper secondary education. So they did a massive research piece looking at 70 countries and how they examine upper secondary levels, and effectively almost trying to see which one was best. Spoiler alert, there is no kind of perfect solution, as we all know that, but there's some brilliant insights that are going to share that. As mentioned, if you've not already got a copy of the AI adoption playbook, then get edition 1. I do want to bring out edition 2 very soon. There's loads more stuff that I've kind of picked up along the way on my journey, working with awarding organizations, working with businesses, working with vendors, and all sorts in there as well. So lots to kind of get across and adjust. You'll also be interested to know that there was a recent webinar done last week. Someone drop a comment in, someone say hi, just so I know you're all there, because nobody's putting any comments in there. So just tell me, say hello, something. That'll be great. Then we've also got, I did a webinar a month ago with Kaylee from STA and the team at Synaptic, and we looked at the use of AI for marking, just looking at their approach, how they got on board quite quickly with that. So please do take a look at that. And I want to get any comments through. It's bothering me that. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Mary's there. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. Right. So when you're doing it alone, it's kind of hard to know. Right. And then out of the back of that work that we did, looking at the case for marking. So Kayla did a brilliant job at just explaining her process, her thought process, her experience working with the Synaptic team in terms of adopting AI for their marketing task. And at the back of that, I've put together this guide for a kind of assessment manager's guide. So it unpacks kind of explainable AI for marking, and it also includes a short kind of summary of the case study from STA. So it's worth having a look at that. I will share the links in a follow-up email if you don't get those right now. And then a couple of weeks' time, I've got doing one of my kind of superpowers sessions. So we're looking at vibe coding, co-work, and AI skills. And we're going to touch a little bit on that today, but just another one there for you if you want to kind of top your AI superpowers up. And then finally, I'm an ambassador for the IAEA conference, which is taking place in Toronto, Ontario, and Canada later on in the year in September through to October. And the submissions are due on Tuesday, 31st So after you've done your ICE ones, if you go into ICE, then get your submissions in for this particular conference. Excellent conference. Really looking forward to going there. And we've got some amazing keynotes to announce as well. For this sponsor, I just want to say thank you to Veretta. Veretta have been absolutely super supporting in this. They've not done anything in terms of steering it. Obviously, sometimes people get a little bit concerned about sponsors getting involved in any kind of researchy type activities. They've not. They've been very helpful. They've kind of reviewed things in the document, the download. You'll see there's a nice little section they've written about their kind of experiences. And one of their team members, Jean-Philippe, he and I got together and we kind of unpacked our different thinking about the whole thing and approach, and he gave me some brilliant feedback. So very good organization, good guys. They're heavily involved in the IAEA conference as well. So well done to Anand and the team there. So right, this all began then with a conversation with these four lovely people. So Mia, Sergio, Neil, and Carl. All very experienced in their fields across the industry, and we got together and we had a big on conversation about the impacts of using AI, what to consider at the back of it, and that kind of spurred the start of the research process. And what that then led to, let me just bring up the Research Sprint website. This is a Research Sprint website, so it's a whole platform that I built for this, and in there you can go in there and you could chat with AI, and there you could watch the video. You can then generate insights from the conversations, and we got all this amazing kind of rich kind of personal kind of takes from people, and it would then take those conversations, turn those into insights and from the research, and then people could chat on top of it. Now, I'll be honest, I say you to see your message there, good to see you. It was the first time I've done it. There was some good engagement. I would love to have more engagement on future ones. And I suppose what's happened with this is some engagements, people look at the research, and then I did what I do and take it a little bit further to make it a little bit more practical for everyone by producing some products. And Neil, I think it was said that the issue of SMEs is you never now have enough SMEs. You're always trying to find SMEs. It's always a challenge, and that's one of the kind of reasons why AI generation is so compelling, really. So it solves this SME bottleneck in there. A lot of organizations, they want to adopt Loft or CAT, and they need more items. So they're looking at this test security issue, and they want to grow their item banks, and AI offers a potential chance for that. I think one of the other things I've seen along the way is that AI also has the opportunity to improve the item bank that you have. Because I know sometimes when people look back at their item banks, they look at the question and go, how is that there? How did that manage to get through the system? And that's kind of back to that human thing, isn't it? That humans aren't perfect. And we look at marking, and everyone's saying, we can't really use AI for marking because humans are just amazing. Well, we're not really. When we've had a bottle of wine and we're working through a load of marking, then we get a little bit sloppy with it, don't we? So there's the option as well to go to market faster, and there are some organizations that are leading on that. They're making AI kind of a critical part of that process. And it's, if you anyone who's adopting it for development code, and for those things, then it can actually make things go considerably well. Could reduce costs as well, so less SMEs, less people on board. You still have that human in there, but you don't necessarily need maybe as many people involved in that process. Certainly, if reduce the costs of going large. So let's say if you 100 items is the max you've been able to do with your current SMEs, then going to 1,000 could be potentially done without too much more cost. Although there are some costs with tokens and those kind of things, and it could improve quality. And I think consistency is an important one here, because if you've got AI working alongside you when you're working on these, then it can pick out the things that you might miss as you're working through. There are some limitations. LLM, so that's large language models. That's what ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all the kind of big models out there do. Are stronger in solutions of problems. What I mean by that, they've been trained mainly on they've been trained on the internet, and the internet contains most of these solutions. It doesn't contain all the problems that we have, because people don't always put out there all the difficulties that someone would have with the subject. They put out there the nice, polished, finished stuff. So that can be sometimes an issue, and that comes onto that distractor side of things, which is where there is some issues. Models are dominated by US authored content, also westernized content, US terminology, etc. And I think it's important when you're looking at studies that are out there about the use of AI for authoring items, and it's done by an American organization. Yeah, they might not have encountered the same problems that you would have. And Carl, in the webinar, he said that when they started, because he's based in New Zealand, they interviewed the models. So they would ask questions about culturally relevant contexts to find out how well those models understood the cultural context that they were going to be working in. And in that process, he selected Claude as part of his process. And I love Claude. I don't know if you're not using Claude, you should be. I think for our domain, the work we do, Claude is a good specialist model, and I'll show you an example of that in a second. Training data is limited for deep specific domains. So if you're working in a very specialist domain, then there might not be as much information out there on the internet for it. This is my kind of thing at the moment: human first, AI forward, agent ready. This is the mantra that I'm kind of giving to organizations and telling people to go down. So you got to think about the people involved, and people like the candidates, people like the SMEs that are involved. You know, you need to invest in your community, invest in your staff. You need to have sustainable. People are still going to be around when AI is not going to remove us all from society. If you've been watching Terminator or something like that, then maybe, but humans are going to be a significant part of it. Think about the candidates. So how's their response going to be when they find out that AI has been used? And there was a case in America where there's been a bit of a stink being kicked up about the fact that AI has been used for authoring items and people weren't told. So have some transparency in that. I do think you need to be adopting AI across the business, but being AI forward about it, not always AI first. AI first, I kind of put an organization is AI first is someone who is effectively just trying to kind of set up a business without any kind of humans involved in it. AI forward is taking what we have and really kind of leveraging AI to the best ability within it. And when I talk about agent ready, a lot of agent activity, AI agents are going to be performing things such as searching your websites, looking for competition, looking for platform sources. Even a consumer space where we're going to ChatGPT is kind of find me a washing machine or something. I use Complexity Computer last night because I want to replace my little computer here with a slightly beefier machine that can run large language models, and that went off and did me a whole research, because I said go to eBay and find me the best deal on eBay for the budget I've got and for the spec that I need, and it came back with a brilliant report on that. It's good, worth trying out Perplexity Computer. And it's not about replacing assessment principles, really good assessment stuff, with just algorithms. It's about augmenting the work that we do. Right, so some of the kind of findings that we found generally in the report, picking up on the research that was looking at, AI makes items easier was the kind of one of the themes there. Distractions are the weak point. Distractors are the weak point, which people try and solve this, but it takes a really good prompt to solve that. And I'll go into a bit more detail on there. One-shot generation is risky. Now, some people would agree to that, and some people wouldn't. The way I see what one-shot generation is asking the item to create the stem, the correct answer, and the distractors all at the same time. Because if you're going to edit it like you should be, or look, doing your kind of SME job of reviewing the item and making tweaks, then you need to then regenerate those distractors, because they might have changed as a result. Even the correct answer might have changed as part of that process. So I do think that you do need a two-stage journey in this, and I will show you that two-stage journey in there as we go through. I think the utopia that everyone wants is the ability to be able to say, AI, here's my blueprint for my test, go off, build me a test and publish it. I don't even want to see it. It's interesting. It does focus on Jeff. Thank you. Yes, it does focus on it, but I do think still. I think when you're talking chat with GBT or something like that, they are still a weak point. I do think when I've seen this on some of the platforms, they are a weak point as well. So I'll come to that. Anchoring is a problem. So this is where if you're presenting the question, the stem, and the answer options, there is more likely that the SME will just look at it and go, yeah, that looks about right. Or there's a new principle in there. I've not really kind of come across it before. That'll be okay. I'm just getting a bit bored now. I've looked at 10 and they were perfect. This 11 question I'm looking at, I'm sure it'll be fine. And you just kind of get stuck in this loop of just saying, yeah, AI's got it now. It's fine. You need to be checking these all the way. And I do think model choice matters. There are better quality models out there for the jobs, certain domains. And I think back to that point I made about Carl interviewing his models, that was an important step that he took. So AI makes items easier. I think from what I've seen and what people are kind of saying, and I think particularly if you're going straight into it, is unless you steer it with good proper prompts, and to your point, Jeff, that you're saying there about most off-the-shelf software focus on the distractor creation. Yes, absolutely, but not everyone is using off-the-shelf to create these items, and we'll look at that in a second. But yeah, it does tend to come up with easier questions, and when you say make it harder, it doesn't have that. You need to give it more information. You need to give it misconceptions to deal with. You need to give more information on there. The current models do struggle a little bit with higher order thinking, and I think a lot of that does come down to the prompting, but also if you're using a reasoning model. So we'll look at this, but ChatGPT free tier, 95% of the population are using that, 900 million weekly active users. That doesn't give you reasoning capability in its responses. And another example, Grok uses web search as part of that, but on the free one, you only get so many web searches. So after a while, if you're creating lots of items using Grok on the free, then it might look good at the start, but you're going to lose that feature, and you're going to have to stump up some cash, and people sometimes just don't do that if they're doing it as a kind of shadow item. Distractors are too obvious, and I do see this. I've seen this where it's coming out with the correct answer is about 15 paragraphs, and the incorrect answers are quite short. And it does take a little bit of steerage to get the AI to do that. But there is also the opportunity to put a layer on top of that, which is analyzing and looking and counting. Character count is quite an easy thing to do in there. There is this idea then that jagged intelligence, I'll kind of skip a little bit on this one, but so Ethan Mollick, one of the great kind of AI writers, he talks about the jagged intelligence out there, and the fact that it's uneven. You could be talking to AI one day and it's a PhD, and then it could be a kind of a 5-year-old in terms of its knowledge, and there is some unevenness around it. And back to that point, solutions rather than failures and mistakes are in there. One shot, so just a quick kind of skim through this one. I think really I kind of covered it a bit, but the idea that if you make any changes to it, then you're going to have to regenerate some of those distractors. You're going to have to do some additional editing. One process I think I like this, and Carl kind of mentioned this again in his research, was take one look at the question as it comes out. If you're looking at the question itself and that doesn't work, just get rid of it. It's no point spending a lot of time editing an AI item. Get rid of it, feed it back, but just generate another one and see if that's any better. Don't spend a lot of time, disproportionate amount of time, editing the work that AI does, because it could be you want to add some edits in there, or you do want to control it. But if you're looking at something and it needs a massive rework, then there's no point looking at it there as well. Anchoring, confidently wrong. So this is hallucinations. I call it confidently wrong, because you do look at something, and the more polished it looks, the more easier it is that you're going to kind of let that go. And I've read lots of stuff that I've been working with AI to come out, and I've just thought, well, that's a brilliant response. And you do some digging, and you find some issues in there as well. So I think the best practice is to present the stem without the key, so without the answer option. And I'll show you an example of how that works. And if you just disagree with it, then get rid of it. Okay, model choice. So reasoning models, this is where AI thinks a little bit more about its process. It is slower, it is more expensive, it does use more tokens. The free models that are available in terms of download, the reasoning ones tend to be a little bit bigger. So if you're running one local, then but it is effectively thinking its way through something, and I think it's worth going for that level if you want that level, and you can still do things in batches, even if you're losing a local model. And I've kind of added that feature in as this platform that I'll kind of talk about in a second. But you could effectively say, go off and generate me 5 items and come back next day and they're all there, or even more than 5 items. But the reasoning model is worth the kind of step up. Free chats rarely have all that, and you also got this for security training data. There was a model that I came across yesterday, or a provider yesterday, Luma from Proton. They do the email stuff. They're kind of suggesting fully encrypted back and forth stuff, and all your data is fully encrypted, so it's worth checking on that. And also, don't assume that a model is better. So ChatGPT 5.2, when it came out, was noted to be less creative than previous versions. because they'd spent less time on testing that and checking that, they'd focus more on things like coding, which was an important part. And also just be careful about swapping models mid-project, unless you've already tested that model and you're happy with it. Okay, so worked example. I'm just going to give you a quick example here of one that I've gone through. So this was an experience that I encountered when I was working with a warning organization. It was a different kind of question, different context, but it was a kind of similar space. So here we've got a patient weighing 70 kilograms, requires infusion, targeted dose of drugs. What is the correct infusion rate? It's giving the answer there. I've no idea if this is right or wrong, but this is just kind of just making a suggestion. Now, if I put a weak prompt into there saying generate 4 plausible wrong answers for this calculation question, when you get ChatGPT free, you get this kind of 200, 120, 160, 180, and it's kind of basically assuming that the person can maybe do the calculation, but they just can't see the numbers. They kind of see 70 kilograms and just put it in 80 or something. It doesn't look for the other things that they might be looking for, the wrong use of formula in there. ChatGPT Plus did a slightly better job, and with its reasoning, it came through. It was saying different things about formula items in there. Grok free plan again did a reasonably good job in the fact that it was coming up with not just 10 below and 10 above. It was coming back with better reasoning as part of its output as to why it was giving those numbers through. But that again was a web search based one, and you only get 25 a day with Grok plan to do that. I would stick over Grok anyway, but if you're creating lots of questions and it's using one model, or you're switching around models and you're just trying to free surf all the models that are out there, then you're going to kind of encounter a point where you're going to start to get a loss in quality of the items that come through. If you put a stronger prompt in there, you get some better examples. So in this one here, it's the free tier has done a better job, almost the equivalent of the plus tier, and the Grok one, the free plan as well. You get a better quality kind of range of items out there. I mean, the reason it was there was given was wrong formula, and it wasn't just about kind of simple mistake that the student had made. So just a summary in terms of those challenges, I think, and we'll go into some worked examples, and I'll show you some stuff there, skills, etc. I think the thing to remember was if you're some of the platforms that are out there will be looking for the SME to be providing some additional support as part of the generation process. Some, I've not seen one yet, but some might promise to do the whole lot for you, put in the knowledge, and it will take care of everything. But I think there's a job that SME still needs to do as part of that process, and that's to give additional help and support in the prompt to get the most out of it. And I think the risk is that we're just going to move one problem to another, in the fact that not SMEs just they're experts in their domain. They're not necessarily AI experts and prompt experts. I do think that if you let people let's say you put a ban in place and saying you can't use AI free versions, you can't use chat, you've got to use a particular tool, or you've got to use Copilot within the workspace. I don't know if you've encountered it. I find it, because I've used other models, I find it pretty terrible, really. So you will find people bringing their own models to the party unless you provide some tool in there. And I definitely don't think at this day and age that you could give people an AI writing challenge and say no use of AI at all. Because unless you lock them in the room without access to anything, I just think they're going to drift naturally to using some form of AI tool. So you just need to be aware of it. You need to give them the right tools to support them in that process. I do think without proper prompting, distractors will be are not plausibly wrong. I think you get some poor quality distractors in there as well. AI generated correct answers tend to be longer, so there's some simple mistakes that it makes in there, and quality of items could be a result of poor items passing through the review. So I think as part of that anchoring thing, if people aren't looking at these properly, then there's more chance that items could just pass through. Okay, right. I'm going to look at the two-stage prompting demo now. So if you've got any questions, if we've been through that, fire away. I'll try and answer them. My opinions, etc. But what I did was, when I was working on this, was this is a kind of, I built this with Lovable, and it's not an intention. I'm not intending to make this an enterprise solution available for everyone or anything like that. I haven't got time to look after all you guys, but I kind of wanted to try out my theory as to what a good generation process might look like and how that might be put together and the tools and features that could be put in place to support that. And this is what I love about Lovable and all the vibe coding tools that are out there, is because it gives you an opportunity to try these things out. So what I did was I built myself this authoring tool. As part of it, you've got projects, personas, and this is something Neil talked about as part of the session. You know, it's a good idea to have personas in there and test against them. And what I've done is actually create personas that can then be fed in as part of the process. So the AI has got a persona to work to as part of it. And I also tested it out with the idea of using local LLM. I mentioned that. So I've used, if you want to try this, Jan.ai is a platform that I use. You can download models from the Hugging Face website. You can then quite simply set up a little API on it, and you can, using this, you can then talk to that API and you can generate items using that local model on your computer. I've done a video on that. If you're interested in that, it's out there somewhere, but I'll find that for you if you need it. So I'm going to go into my subject, or just in my subject, in terms of settings and stuff. I think it's good to give the kind of nice workflow for the author to work through. So in terms of having access to the learning outcomes that you want to look at, and then any kind of global permissions on the project. And let's generate some items, shall we? So I'm going to work through my two-stage process. So I'm going to pick practical skills. I'm going to go for 5 essentials because I like that. If any of you sailors are out there, then feel free to shout out the answer to these. Knowledge is a really important one because I do think there's a risk that you could just have. Let's say you've got a whole piece of course material on a 50 megabyte file, and you're attaching that to the project and sending that up every time you do. So if you're in ChatGPT, you create an item, you just keep attaching the PDF. It's gonna add more tokens into that process, and you're gonna rinse through your token rates. Now, it might not matter so much if you're using a vendor platform. It will matter to them, but also there is the risk that you're overloading the AI with superfluous information that it doesn't necessarily need as part of that process. So I do recommend kind of chunking your knowledge as you work through. So I've only got a small item here, but it could be that as part of the process you've gone through and you've sectioned off knowledge and information that's pertinent to a particular subject. You may want to attach one or more items to it, but just try and avoid, I think, adding in a serious amount of material in there. I'm going to add in my persona as part of this. So I'm going to pick my persona. I'm going to leave it on apply for starters. And what's the immediate priorities? My decision criteria I'm going to add in there. And what this is effectively doing is trying to, if you imagine you were doing this straight in ChatGPT, you'd be, having to type out that response, that prompt in there, and add in all the detail that you want to add into the process. And it's just trying to avoid that process. I've got a batch one here, so I've got 3 items. I've got my items. I've picked my model. I'm going to use 2.5 Flash, which is Gemini one. I'm going to generate the items that come through. I'm going to have a sip of my tea while it does this. There we go. We've got our items. So what I've done with this one as well is each generation comes through as a batch. And one thing I've been trying to, because as part of the guidance is, you've got Ofqual and NCCA, they're all looking for audit trails with the prompts. So at every stage of this, the reason why it's in batches is because it remembers the prompt settings that have gone in there. And when you export that set of data, you're going to get those prompts through. So this is my kind of 2-stage. I have generated the answer, but I haven't generated distractors as part of that. I could choose to edit this now if I wanted to, but I can now look at the question. You're sending directly away from the wind on a dead run, and you need to change course. So dead run is when you're going straight away. And the reason why they call it a dead run is because that boom could come across and smack you in the head and kill you. As you begin to steer, you realize the boom is at a risk of swinging violently across. Back to that point about dying sailing. Based on safety protocols and the nature of the maneuver, what is your immediate priority? Well, not to get bashed on the head, really. So it'll be interesting to see what it comes out with in here, but keeping the boat stable and not not triggering a jibe would be my response there. Oh, there we go. So we got crew aware and ready to duck to avoid the boom. So safety is the one that's come through. And you could kind of look at it and go, well, I could think of possibly is that I could think of 15 different answers to that one. So I'm just going to bin that. I'm going to move on because it's not, I need to work harder at that item. But now I'm in the position where I'm happy with that. I'm going to generate the distractors and move on to the next stage, and that will then generate the distractors. I've got those through. I can edit those individually. What it's also doing is doing some checks on there as well. So I've enforced it to count the characters to make sure that the correct answer option, which is 62, is not longer than the other ones in there. So, and then I'll go through to the review process and saving those through. So that's kind of my thinking around basically what I'm trying to show here is what I think good item generation looks like, and some ideas and tips that you could, if you're building your own, or anyone else that's got their own solution, they might want to pick up on some of these things as part of the process. You can see the prompt settings in there. I've also put a green monitor in as well. So this is work doing calculations based on the tokens that have been transferring up and down on this project to see how much, what's going up, what's going down, and gives you an idea as to what your impact, basically how much you're burning the planet with every item that you push in there. And I think, that might be something that's important to you as an organization. What I have done is, I've got to do the export, is when you do export the items, you get through this nice little package. And in there, you've got the CSV with the items in there all ready to kind of import. It's going to open it over here. I'll move it back in a second. And in there, I've been tracking how much of the item has been changed by a human. So I've got some human tracks in there. I've got information about the temperature that was used for the item generation, what model was used by, who the author was, the prompt ID, which is in this little package here. So each one of these is a little document with which contains the entire prompt that went in there as well. So you can kind of see you've got the audit trail then as part of that process. And I do think the audit trail part is an important part of the step and stage in there. Now, taking this kind of a little bit further out. Let me just go back to my slides a second. Any questions about that, feel free to ask. We're going to talk about skill files very quickly now. Now, this is a kind of newish kind of concept that's come out. Claude introduced it, I believe, as part of their model. And the idea is a skill file is it's not just a prompt, it's a workflow. And it's a portable one that can be moved from project to project. So if I go to my skill here, so this is my skill for generating multiple choice items based on that two-stage prompting model. And what I've done here is I've effectively, because I've built the kind of working version within Lovable, and on a previous project, I learned some things with an AI about just in terms of the nurturing and supporting the SME beforehand, thinking through their structures. What I did was I got Lovable to mash that together and create me this skill. And this skill is it's a markdown file, so it's a bit more than a text file. It has a bit more structure to it. And the AI models that you use, be able to import this skill in and kind of absorb it and then follow the flow of it, because it's a workflow with instructions and checks. And what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at how that works. So you can see it's got the workflow and everything in there. If I then go to Claude, so Claude is supporting this. OpenAI are going to be supporting this as well with their models. But I'm going to call it, let's create a question. And what I've got in the projects. This is a project in Claude. So in there, I've got files, I've got the skill, I've got the syllabus, CSV for sailing. I've got some knowledge in there as well. And I'm going to hit far away there. And what it does is it's going to walk me then through that process. So bear with me, because this is kind of the way I kind of look at it is, if you are in a position where you, if you've got SMEs that are using models like Claude for creating items, or even ChatGPT on a business plan or a pro plan, then you can, in theory, to enforce some kind of structure into the way, and rather than giving them lots of big prompt templates, is work on devising this skill. And they're not hard to write. AI will help you write them, and it'll give you, so here you go, as an MD file you can download, and it will then work with you then to create it now. So it's now on this kind of journey where it says, okay, where do you want to start? So we've got the picture, we've looked at the information you put in the project. Do you want to go down Miller's Pyramid or Bloom's? Let's go with Bloom's. And it's going to take me through these steps. I won't go all the way through, but ultimately get to the point where you can, as you work on more and more items, you can then download the CSV in the structure that you want it to do. So none of that kind of, one team's worked on ChatGPT, they've given me a CSV, I've got to try and formulate this into mash it all together. Because they've been using the skill, everyone will be given the CSVs with the same format and layout, and they'll have been through the same process. So I'm going to go apply. I'm on Opus 4.6 as well, which is the probably why it's a little bit slow, because that's the big beefy model for ChatGPT. Go ahead and answer those three. Just proceed. I'm just going to just proceed. So I've got yours sat there waiting. So it's making sensible defaults. It's got the idea. Based on the source material, it's going to ask those. Now they've grabbed the remaining choices from you. What type of, I want a action or recommendation. I'm going to misapplied knowledge, and should the question be about a scenario? Yes, let's have a scenario. So I'm able to just follow this flow then as part of the journey. And I get the information all laid out. And I get my stem. And I'm going to go, yes, let's reveal the answer. I'm happy with that, because I could just say ditch and generate me another one. And we've got my bit evidence in there as well. Type of confirmation. Yep, I'm going to keep it. Correct answer, lower the center board, move on. Yeah, that looks about right. I'm only briefly looking at that. And then we'll go to the distractor stage. Now you're thinking, well, okay, Tim, this is maybe a bit slow, a bit complicated, but it's adding structure to your process so that your SMEs could work on this. And what the great thing about skills is in theory, they're going to be portable. So you can move, there we go, I'm just going to download the bank. So thank you, it'll give me a CSV that I can download in the structure that I want as part of that process. So I could go and create more items and then extract that. Now, yeah, so kind of, that might seem like a little bit of a slow process. You could, obviously that is slow because I'm doing the two-stage approach, but you could refine that workflow to make it as optimal as possible, as kind of audit-based as possible, so you're getting all the audit trail. Because it's the problem, if you're using ChatGPT, you've not got the prompt or any information that they've generated as part of that. The other thing that you could potentially do, so what I did is I kind of remixed the item authoring tool that I did, and I said, okay, let's almost reimagine it so that someone could come along with their own skill for item authoring and slot it in, and it would pick up that skill and work with it. And this is where I think there's some kind of huge potential with skills within our space, particularly in this kind of work, is that, yeah, one of the challenges when you're working with a vendor is they've built a product, be a very good product, it follows a workflow. But I've never not heard anyone come along and go, yeah, we're going to have to make a compromise on this. Yeah, that's not the way we do it. I'd love it if it had that feature. Or could it just be as part of the next step it does this? And it's kind of, yes, it could do that, but it's going to be a bit of development. And we've also got our other customers to consider because we're a SaaS platform, and this is a dedicated solution for you. The thing about skills is, so I kind of reimagined this a little bit, and to the point where you could upload the skill in there, and this version of it of the item authoring would modify the flow and the questions and structure according to your skill. So you could change the skill, and the idea is that if it was flexible enough, and it should be, it would be able to modify the workflow and approach that you take. So it just makes the portability of these things. And you could have multiple skills because you might have multiple subjects, and you approach vendor X, and you've led with one particular program in mind, but you want to use it for another program, but more changes are going to be needed in there. The idea of these kind of skill tools is that you could have that change and adaptation. And I'll show you just quite quickly in here. So I'm going to generate item. I'm going to choose my level. I'm going to go back to my 5 essentials. I'm going to collect my source knowledge, which is the navigating bit, and then this taxonomy strategy kind of structure is changed according to the skills, because in there I've got Blooms and Millers in there. I've got that will adjust. I've got answer types in there that have been picked up, because you saw that in the Claude one. That was the same skill one. So I was able to modify this SaaS, in theory, SaaS platform using my own almost configuration file as part of it. And well, the other thing was just this interesting one here is using AI on top of AI, in effect, to help with that prompting process. So you're using AI to, let's say, generate, let's do these things, and then I'm going to use that to generate some misconceptions. And I could then look at those and add my own misconceptions in there as well as part of it. So I could say, no, that's not right. I'm going to add the decision criteria, immediate priority, and next, and do the generation process. So I'm effectively able to control how this works through that skill process. So yeah, there you go. I don't know. This is the report. In there, I've kind of detailed a bit in there. You'll see the report link just below you in there. So I've got the lovely acknowledgements that are in there. Graham Hudson's done a fantastic job just writing a preference for me. I don't know if you know Graham. He's an awesome chap, he's the current chair of the Assessment Association. I do know he's on his way, kind of moving off that role. So I was going to say on his way out, he's not. If anyone's interested, I think they're still looking for applicants for that. So please do have a look at that one. And then you got Veretta's piece of information. And what I've done is break it up into limitations, guides, before you prompt. And then in each of these sections here, so expertise, I've given my view of, based on the kind of the research and my kind of understanding and experience with this, some best practice, some minimal practice, and some significant risk items in there as well. So it kind of helps you kind of understand my framing of how I think people should be using these models and platforms for it. I think the caveat to all this, in a way, is that this is a fast-moving place. The models are changing; they're getting better, and I think there's a degree of making sure that you've got flexibility in your access to those. I think there's some interesting things are going to happen in terms of the way this cost profiling goes, because if you imagine normally with vendors and stuff, you go on a seat-based profile. If you're pushing through lots of AI item generation using lots of tokens, you could in fact have one person doing the job of 20, and that might change how some of the platforms are licensed. Not all of them, but some. And also just the actual sheer volume of tokens that are going through on there. Someone's got to pay for that as part of it. So yeah, any questions? Do you want to ask me anything? Just from based on my kind of experiences, please do fire away. Love to hear your comments. Did that make any sense? Did the skill thing make any sense? Do you need me to cover that at all? I'm just going to skim to the end here. There is some FAQ bit in here as well. So Saeed, let's have a look. What quality assurance models are you seeing working best when integrating AI into item authoring, particularly in balancing speed and scale with a robust human review? So I suppose when I kind of looked at the kind of quality side of things, I was looking at that flow and that workflow approach. I've not seen any kind of additional quality assurance processes or tools that have come on top, I suppose. So I'm not seeing any. I think the point I've made is kind of the idea that if you take by having a good quality AI model, keeping that nice and static, after doing some testing, make sure you're happy and comfortable with that model on there, then have a good workflow on there as part of your process, and making sure that in terms of the review processes, that if you're using standard setting, those kind of processes, you've got processes in place that are able to review and monitor the items. I do strongly recommend that you tag all the items if they're AI generated, even what model, even the prompt, and I think that's back to the point, so you can then use that prompt and test it back at a later date to make sure everything's okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Saeed. It's one I'm probably a little bit weak on in some ways. Any more questions? More than welcome to get through. You probably heard my response to that one. I'm not going to ask Tim a question now. What I'll do is I'll take that. Thank you, Saeed. I'm going to make the skill file available, so I'm going to add it in to the website, so you can add it on there. So if you go to the Test Community.Network website later on, I'll share out the email with the recording, so you can watch this back, maybe at a slower pace. All my kind of findings and thoughts that I've put in my slides are all in that report, so please do have a look through that. If you've got any questions off the back of this, if you're looking at adopting AI to author items and you want to kind of go through my experiences and what I've kind of learned from it, I'm available to hire. More than happy to come and do a short project with you and just explore your challenge, your setting, what's going to work best. If it's looking at technology that's out there, I know some people have gone down the route of using Microsoft Copilot agents as part of their process. It's a bit like using custom GPTs, which is okay as an approach, and people can tap into it, but it does give you structure. But I think a lot of it comes down to, if you're using straight chat assistants and you're not getting the audit trail out of it, then you could be in a bit of a blind spot. And having the audit trail is an important part of the process, part of the learning process. So I'm not seeing any more questions. My contact details are on there, so if you do want to get in touch, you always find me on LinkedIn. I hope you found that useful. Just sharing it. I hope you find the research report useful. Please do feedback on it. Got a quick feedback slide. Find that in a second. And just a reminder that the Vibes coding one is coming up soon. So if you do want to join the Vibe coding one on the 16th of April, then please do get in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone. And I'll speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.